Alright, yo guys, what's up? My name is Junior Senpai. Welcome to Senpai FGC. Today we're going to be doing something a little bit different today, and with me is a Red Bull because, yeah, I gotta have some kind of energy, right? Today I'm going to be doing something a little bit different. I'm going to be looking at a article online. Bam! Alright. So, the article I wanted to look at is Life's theory of, like, 3 types of fighting game players. There's probably more than that, but these are, like, general types. I initially decided to do this video after watching the Sajam's discussion of these 3 concepts. These 3 concepts were kind of translated to Magic the Gathering terms as well. But the general ones are, the first off is mine, the player whose primary strength comes from levering information about the game, from frame data to option select to setups. So this is kind of like someone just who studies the ins and outs of the game and then bases their gameplay around that studying. Heart, the player whose primary strength comes from trying to counter their opponent's specific approach to the fight. So let's go over the last one before we discuss the second one. The last one is Body, the player whose primary strength comes from being able to perform higher damage combos and block better due to their physical dexterity. This is mostly based around kind of like reaction time. Heart is kind of based off of feel. So following your heart is kind of like intuition or like feel. Brain is essentially, you're kind of a lab monster, right? You're studying all the ins and outs and quirks of the game to kind of better your play. And Body is kind of like, I would say, ungodly reactions, kind of, if I could simplify those as best as I can. And what I wanted to do for this video is to actually categorize my friends into these subgenres. The actual article that Sajam looked up, I'm going to find that one really quick. Alright, so you got your 3 basic kinds of Magic players. You got Timmy, Johnny, and Spike. This is kind of what he was making an example of, that these examples are very similar to the ones in fighting games. So you got the Timmy. Timmy wasn't the first profile created, but was the first profile we named. Timmy's naming happening by accident during Tempest. So just going over the basics of what it is. Imagine a kid goes into a game store. Let's just call him Timmy. Now Timmy doesn't have a lot of money, so he buys 1 pack of, whatever pack he feels like. Timmy is pretty much the one that wants to make the beefy plays, get the beefy monsters out, all that. So in fighting games, this essentially means playing just an absolute monster of a character. You can use whatever example you want, one of the Broly's from Dragon Ball, I don't know, Zangief in Street Fighter, so on and so forth. People like that. Potemkin, I guess, would be another one. So now Johnny. Let's see. Johnny is a creative gamer to whom magic is a form of self-expression. Johnny likes to win, but he wants to win with style. It's very important to Johnny that he wins on his own terms. As such, it's important to Johnny that he's using his own deck. Playing Magic is an opportunity for Johnny to show his creativity. So this is pretty much like a player that shows this creative sauce with maybe stuff that's not exactly top tier or maybe not looked at well enough. And that's another example of fighting games where hey, this character isn't looked at a whole lot, but I can grind this character out, make them look saucy. I want to make this character look good, right? That's kind of roughly Johnny. And then we got Spike. And now Spike is the kind of character I don't like, and I know a Spike. So Spike is a competitive player. Now, I have nothing against being competitive with a game. That's more than fine. I'm competitive with the game. But a Spike player is that different kind of competitive. Spike plays to win, right? He's not here to lose. So Spike enjoys winning. To accomplish this, Spike will play whatever the best deck is. Spike will copy decks off the internet. Spike will borrow other players' decks. To Spike, the thrill of Magic is the adrenaline rush of the competition. Spike enjoys the stimulation of outplaying the opponent and the glory of victory. So essentially, the Spike is kind of here just to win. almost the anti-Johnny, right? I mean, Johnny's here to win too, but he wants his own sauce, right? Spike's like, I don't care whose sauce it is, I'm throwing it in my spaghetti, okay? And then, yeah, Timmy's probably like the hardest to explain. The Timmy type, so it's essentially like overwhelming the opponent, right? Just a beefy wall that overwhelms your opponent. So now, I think this is easier to categorize my friends into than, you know, mind, heart, and body. We can kind of like fuse these together to kind of categorize my friends. I think I'm going to start by categorizing myself. As far as mind, heart, and body, I would say maybe I'm like the heart player. Like, I kind of play by feel. I'm not exactly a lab monster. I don't have crazy reactions. I'm just kind of like, you know, I think this player might do this because of the situation, or if I pressure a player like this, they'll react with this. There is some mind there, but it's mostly like feel based, right? So now let's go back to Timmy, Spike, and Johnny. Obviously there are hybrids between these. You can kind of fuse all these together and get some kind of category. So Timmy player wants to play some beefy, overwhelm the opponent. That's not quite me, right? I would say I'm kind of more a Johnny. No magic pun intended. I'm not looking at a top tier character. I just play who I think is fun, and I'm down to grind out a low tier character, mid tier, high tier, doesn't matter. Obviously I'm playing to win, but I'm not going out of my way to pick top tiers to do so. If I think a character's fun, I'm going to play that character. Enough said. I think next up I'll go with Vincent. Vincent's probably between mind, heart, and body. I would say he would be a mind player. So I could very much believe Vincent is just chilling in training mode, labbing, 1 setups, 2 maybe not option selects, but like checking out frame data, what's his best options. And then between Timmy, Johnny, and Spike, I would say this man is a Spike player, absolutely. If a character is strong, he will play that character. If a deck is strong, he'll play that deck. He will look at, now I'm not saying he exclusively does this, but he will like copy a deck off the internet or something, or like a tournament that won. He'll copy it, he'll play it, try to understand how it works, and then maybe then pick it apart, see if he could do something different. So he might be a Spike with a little bit of Johnny, right? But I would say primarily Spike. I'm going to go next with Brandon. So we have mind, heart, and body. I don't know if Brandon actually labs. That's the thing. Like, that's the thing that is kind of holding me back from, like, truly, like, yep, that's Brandon. I would say he's somewhere between mind and heart. Maybe a bit more heart. I don't know. I don't think any of us have ungodly reactions. I would say if there was somebody, it would be me, and that's not to like boost myself up, but we're also not that way. Like, we're not reacting with tech. It's more so between heart and mind. So I would say he's like maybe 60% heart, 40% mind. Yeah, Brandon for me is the hardest to categorize, I would say. Now between Timmy, Johnny, and Spike, I would say Brandon is probably a Johnny player as well. I think Brandon and I are probably the closest in playstyle. As far as general playstyle, we play games very differently, but we kind of have a similar approach, if that makes any sense. So I would say Brandon plays by Like, wants to win on his own terms, wants to win with style. Oh, definitely win with style. He will fucking BM, actually. Um, and maybe just like a little bit of spike, maybe? Yeah. Just like the littlest bit, though. Like, he definitely wants to win, and we all want to win. Let me just start by saying that. Um, but I don't know, like I'll going back to me a little bit, like I'll blatantly mess around. Like if what I think of is if Brandon and I play Smash, I will very much homie stock. Even when it's like totally not needed, I'll just fuck around. I don't care, right? I want a match to be as fair as possible. Um, if I were to, I mean, we all kind of get salty at losing, right? Um, yeah, I would say Brandon's mostly Johnny with like the littlest bit of spike. He doesn't go out of his way to pick top tiers. He's kind of like me, where like he just kind of plays whatever he thinks is fun. If it happens to be top tier, whatever. Now, the last friend, Andrew, and I'm gonna say, oh, I really don't know what Andrew is for Mind, Heart, and Body. I know what he is for Timmy, Johnny, and Spike, but that's tough. Because I'm going to say he's definitely not a mind player. And that's not an insult. It's just that he doesn't look at any of that stuff. He doesn't look at frame data. He doesn't worry about option selects, or he doesn't think about potential setups. I mean, by default, he'd have to be Heart, right? Because, like I said, none of us really have any kind of ungodly physical reactions or anything like that. So I'm going to say, by default, he's going to have to go into Heart. Yeah. As far as Timmy, Johnny, and Spike, Andrew's a Timmy player all day. Absolutely. Looking at him like a Spike player, it's just not. He will. Oh, explaining Andrew's pretty tough. Andrew follows Maximilian, dude, which is fine. I do. Brandon does. I think maybe even Vince does. And he'll see what Max does. And if he's playing that game, he'll try to do what Max does. Which is fine. It makes a sense. Because if you don't know a game very well, and the way that you're most intimately familiar with said game is by, hey, I saw someone do this, this is the best I got, that's fine. I don't care. But Andrew wants his kind of like beefy characters to like overwhelm, I would say. And this is tough to talk about because Andrew doesn't really invest himself too much in fighting games. So this is tough. This is actually really tough. If he kind of like follows what Max does, he's not a Johnny player, right? It doesn't become self-expression. He's just kind of like, hey, I see someone do this thing. They're having fun with it. I'm gonna have fun with it. That's fine. But the self-expression isn't there. You can find yourself in a character that someone else plays. Like that's very much a thing. Like there are only so many characters. You're bound to overlap. But I don't see him going out of his way to like learn that self-expression, right? That involves like spending a lot more time in a game than he does to grind out a character. Spike. Oh, maybe. I think he might be a Timmy Spike combo, cause he wants to be the beefy guy to overwhelm, but at the same time, if he sees something work, right? Like, oh, this works, I'm gonna use it. Which I can't stress enough, is totally fine. Play the game however you want to. But as far as the sheer sake of categorization, yeah, I think he's a Timmy Spike. So let's see. Timmy Spike or Spike Timmy. Timmy Spike players want to win, but also like to indulge his fun side. When picking a deck, Timmy / Spike will always pick the good deck with the biggest creature or effects. A good example of a Timmy Spike card is Rith the Awakener. Rith is a big dragon, but one of the costed aggressively. Wait. One that's costed aggressively with a good special ability. Yeah, I could absolutely see that. Let's see. So I said Brandon was like a mostly Johnny with a little bit of Spike. So let's see that. So Johnny Spike players want to win, but only on his own terms. Most of the Rogue Tournament deck builders are Johnny Spikes. They go to great lengths to be able to win with their original decks, even when they have to use a pre-made deck. They will always tweak it to give the deck their own spin. A good example of Johnny Spike is whatever. The card is cool and offers interesting deck building opportunities, but still has the raw power needed to win. This sounds like me too, actually. I think Brendan and I are Johnny Spike, right? Vincent is I'm not gonna say blatantly Spike, but he's so much Spike that I don't feel mixing him with anything else. Andrew is a Timmy Spike. So let's see. Did I already pass that? Did I already read that? Yeah. I think that's a good summary. Yeah, this was kind of a fun video to make. I'm gonna switch over to some Arkham City. But for the sake of the YouTubes, thank you guys so much for watching. If you guys want to see more, check out the rest of the channel. In the description, there's links to not just my channel, but my other channels and maybe some friends' channels. I don't know. Yeah, check it out. Like the video, subscribe, all that good stuff. Anyways, I'll see you guys later. Peace.